I can say right off the bat that there is very few degrees within all of the universities in South Africa that can teach you the exact terminologies that are used in banks. Um, things like PD, LGD, EAD, things like that. It's very few programs. It's not a lot at all. So most of the quants that are there in the banks, they all start out not knowing much. But I think all you need for that is a keenness to learn. And if you are keen to learn and you do possess a mathematical background and a mathematical skill set together with a passion for solving problems, you should be fine.
Like you yourself being where you are now, looking back and talking to a student who's still in varsity, what can you say that these are the important aspects to actually take care of while you're still a student if you want to get into the quant space?
So when you say aspects, you mean like courses
Yeah,
that can
courses
help
that
you?
can actually help you. And
Or
also, I mean, there might be other things as well. Perhaps, I don't know. I'm just
mm,
thinking here, maybe things like um, coding skills, things like that. So you'll
yeah,
just expand on whatever you feel like a student right now in 2023 need
yeah,
to take care
yeah.
of if they want to actually get into the quant space. Okay, I think back by popular demand, is Temoso Kgalane. Is your name Temosho or Temoso?
It's Tamosho. So the way it was originally written is that it had the little hat on
Oh
top, the
yeah.
Betty hat, fish. But then Home Affairs did not incorporate that into my name when they did my certificate. So it's the written in the actual Pedi way that you write. So it's not SH, but rather it has the little head on top of the S. Um, but because it got cut out, I just use it as is without the
And
H.
after we did our first recording, and by the way, to everyone who's watching this,
Yeah,
this is Temosho Kgalane. We're having him back again because a lot of you subscribers actually wanted you back here, because people are actually very much interested in the career of being a quant. And you're a quant, and not a quant,
yeah.
but a senior quant. We're going to talk about that also. But when we did our first recording, I actually posted the link on LinkedIn, and somebody commented there. I think they thought that you were Tswana, and they were like Motswana wa Geshu, something like that. And I think that
Oh,
the Temoso thing, I think, is the one that actually led them there.
oh, I see. I see. Yeah, no, but yeah, I'm actually Pedi. Uh, but we're all part of one big family, I guess. But yeah, the reason behind my name is just that got cut out, and I actually don't really prefer using my name with the H. Um, I prefer it with the S. Rather explain that is missing because it's part of the language. So I prefer it that way. But yeah, I think I saw that comment, but yeah, I think we're all still one
Kana wena o
people.
Mopulana, right?
Yeah, Pulan. Makakala ni Pulan.
Tell, because people don't. When I came to Vets, actually, and then because now I'm from Raskukune,
Mm.
and Raskukune,
Oh,
yeah,
proper
Raskukune,
bait.
like one, ke re bolela Spedisele.
Yeah, come on.
And now when I came
Eh.
to Vets, I remember meeting Balobedu, and it was the first time I actually
Mm.
knew that actually they are Balobedu, and then okay, Mapulana and everything like that, and you know, so
Mm. Mm.
Mupulana through and through.
Yeah, ke Mapulana, ke goletše Mapulaneng. And funny enough, Spulana is a combination of Tsonga and Pedi, because usually I think languages are kind of sandwiched between where the people are
Yeah,
staying. Then they kind of combine to use certain words from another area and other words from another area. One thing that I realized with this is, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Venda is a combination of Shona and Pedi. Because if you speak Pedi, you can hear some of the words are similar to Venda, but then also if you listen to Tsonga, I mean Shona, it has the same kind of, it rolls off the tongue in the same way as
yeah,
Venda. So so with the Pulana people, I think where we come from, it's between like the Pedi people and the Tsonga people, and words get mixed around and it forms into a new kind of hybrid language. But yeah, ke Mapulana, ke goletše Mapulane. Not Mapulane in the place, but Mapulane where Pulana people
and
are.
then how did you end up being at Vets?
Hey, arriving at VET was, I think, from the school that I was at, there was not a lot of information as to where one can study and how one can get into these universities. You don't even know what to expect. I think the big um, influence there, I wanted to actually go to UP. I think the big influence was my brother, who actually asked me, why don't you try vets? And when I got to vets, it was actually because of the research that I did. I don't know if I mentioned this in in the previous video, but I did a whole lot of research to find a degree that can join together maths and economics into one kind of degree where you study both with equal intensity. And it just happened to be the varsity that worked. But there was not a lot of information. So you were just literally going off of the name. So I applied at University of Limpopo, University of Pretoria, UJ, and Wits. And I think of all of the four, Wits was the easiest to apply to, and they seemed to have an interest in me just as much as I had an interest in them. So then, eventually, when I got my matric results, they were the first ones to make an offer, and they had the degree that I wanted. So I applied. But it was a big change when I came to Vets. It was the first time I was coming to Joburg to live in Joburg. So I didn't know anything about that, which was a different kind of experience. But yeah, that's how I landed up at
And
Vets.
when you come from the villages, man, you come to Joburg, and you hear a lot of stories about Joburg. Hey, coming for the first time is scary, man. Very scary.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, 100%. You hear a lot of stories about people being swallowed by the city, about the crime, about a whole lot of things. And yeah, it's very daunting. Like when you get here, even just the sheer structures, the difference in environment, it's just mind blowing when you get here for the first time from the villages.
Yeah. Were you a raider? I'm seeing you're wearing a hoodie written Raiders. Were you a raider?
Oh no, no, no. This is an NFL. This is an NFL a jersey. It's actually it's just a hoodie I bought.
Oh,
I didn't actually realize that it coincides with the men's dress people, but I have quite a few friends who are
yeah.
Raiders.
Um,
So once or twice I've identified as a Raider,
yeah,
but not for too
yeah.
long.
Look, there are some questions that obviously came through, that we're gonna go through.
Yeah,
But before we get into that,
yeah.
are there any developments in the quant space? I mean, what's happening in the quant space right now?
Um, I think you meant since the
Yeah,
last time we spoke,
since the
or
last time we
just in
spoke,
general?
any new things that are, or any new trends that are actually coming through? Uh,
Yeah, so oh, you were speaking about developments in the quant
yeah.
space, ne? Um, I can speak to the area that I generally work in, and um, I can say that from an economic perspective, there's been a lot of strain. So the economy has gone down, and interest rates have been coming up, and so we've seen from all the multiple banks releasing all of their mid-year interim results, that there's um, a large increase in credit risk, and a large yeah, there's been a large increase in credit risk due to people missing payments, and just the general strain on the general population. So I think a lot of the banks in the industry have been focused a lot on managing credit risk, impairments, and yeah, there's been some interesting work on that front. I've read a lot of articles as well that speak to um, that pain point that they're seeing, which is just indicative of what's happening in the general South African economy with all of these interest rate hikes. It is visible that they're causing a little bit of strain in the population. So it's a cool space to be working in at the moment, the credit risk space. So I think that's one development that we have seen. It's kind of been from the beginning of the year, but um, it's kind of been developing as and when time goes, and you see all of these results being published by the banks and demonstrating that there is some strain being experienced on the impairments or credit risk front.
So, talking about credit risk, um, which is actually the field that you say that you're actually working in as a quant. What other fields do quants work at, in the banking space, and also beyond the banking space? Are you guys only in the banking space, or you do have other quants perhaps working in, I don't know, insurance, investments, etc.?
Yeah, so I think the name Quant might be um, the moment you start switching industries, it might be used for a different thing. So a lot of time when you hear quant, people kind of are referring to people who do a lot of maths for trading and investments and things like that. And that's so in the banking space, quants are looked at from that perspective of impairments and credit risk and liquidity risk and all sorts of risks in the banking space. But when you branch out, a quant might do a similar thing, but be called a different thing. So sometimes the work that quants do overlaps with what a data scientist would do, or what a data engineer would do, or what a data analyst would do, or sometimes even what a investment firm Quant would do. So it's a I think it's a term that could be looked at in different ways. Generally, in the space where we kind of operate, a quant is a person who's looking at the credit life cycle or any other kind of risk like market risk. You can get market risk quants, you can get liquidity risk quants, you can get all sorts of uh, careers like that. I think the general kind of stream that holds it together is that of risk. Um, but you can find quants doing work that data scientists do, and if they leave the banking industry, they'll be called something different. So I think in one way or another, there are quants spread all out throughout the industry.
Oh, I see. So risk is like the clue for most of what you guys do. Um, so now, you know, I think earlier on this week, I had this student in my class who was asking me. They probably watched the video that we did before, but they were like, they were concerned about, you know, just only knowing the maths, because they were like, now if I get into banking, I don't know any language of banking. I don't know the terminologies that are used. I'm just doing maths and that's all I'm doing. How will I transition? How will I get to know these terms and everything like that? How does that work?
I can say right off the bat that there is very few degrees within all of the universities in South Africa that can teach you the exact terminologies that are used in banks. Um, things like PD, LGD, EAD, things like that. It's very few programs. It's not a lot at all. So most of the quants that are there in the banks, they all start out not knowing much. But I think all you need for that is a keenness to learn. And if you are keen to learn and you do possess a mathematical background and a mathematical skill set together with a passion for solving problems, you should be fine.
Mm. And one of
Yeah.
the maybe the interesting thing for especially people who are doing maths to know, if there is anything to know. I remember someone telling me about the is it the Black Scholes model or something like that? Um,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is that? Because I feel like most of the mathematicians or the math people in the banks, like the Black Scholes, I don't know if I'm even correct. I'm pronouncing it right. What is that?
Mm. If I'm not mistaken, I'm also not 100% familiar with market risk work, but the Black-Scholes model is a stochastic or a set of stochastic differential equations that I think model volatility in the market, because in the markets or the trading markets or the any kind of market like stocks um, and fixed income and the exchange rate markets, things like that, there is no deterministic way of predicting an outcome in the future. So those models are differential equations. Like, I think what we would have when we talk about differential equations is equations that are deterministic in nature, which means having a fixed output that you can predict given an input. Um, but those markets don't operate like that. So those kinds of models add in or factor in volatility and randomness inside, and help you to somewhat make some sort of prediction from a mathematical standpoint of something that is not so easy to predict.
Let's look into your line of work, the kind of work that you do in risk.
Yeah.
And what is some of
Yeah.
the mathematics tools that you guys use in your, day-to-day, work or day-to-day modeling? Like, because I think these things will even perhaps inspire those that are still in university, either doing applied maths or P mathematics or any computer science or any of the quantitative sciences.
Yeah. So in my line of work, we use a lot more statistics than pure maths. And the reason why is because when we model on samples of data. So we use data and behavior that we can see in the past to predict the future. So something like a regression would be something that you could possibly come across if you are doing any kind of modeling. You would be able to come across something like um, uh, regression, and you would know that regression is driven or is basically a optimization problem. So the fields like optimization, mathematical optimization, are where something like the least squares um, and maximum likelihood problems come into place. It's minimization, maximization problems that arise in mathematics. But those math tools are much more significant if in your understanding of what the actual work that you're doing is. So it's entirely possible that for the most part you won't be doing a regression on a daily basis or on a regular basis. Especially speaking for my field. So, but it's good to know where all the stuff comes from, so that when you have to explain to people why things are behaving the way they behave, you can understand and be able to provide information on why something is behaving the way it's behaving. What are some of the assumptions that sit inside something like a least squares regression or a maximum likelihood regression? Those kind of things those kind of things help you to be able to not just explain to people, but also problem solve. The other concepts that are coming up now, especially in the field, is and in pretty much many fields, is the machine learning stuff, the AI stuff, and things like that. Those are interesting stuff that are coming up within the quant space, and a lot of people are doing a lot of cool stuff. The key in working in all of these industries is data. If you think about a logistics company, they have all the information about the routes that trucks go, which trucks go where, which products get delivered when, what are the orders, so that's all data. So primarily, I think what's come into the space is a lot of data. So a lot of skills that are required are data based. They're based on working with data, which is why um, there's a lot of statistics involved. But on a market risk side, I think there's a lot more maths stuff that's involved. There's a lot of for for certain people that go into really niche things. There's a few quants I know that actually work uh, in these market risk models, and that requires a deep theoretical understanding of um, financial instrument models, things like that. So that's the math that I've seen, but it doesn't mean that um, your field of your quantitative field doesn't matter because all of these things speak to each other. You just have to find the thread between what you do and what you might end up doing in the bank. And I mean, like I said, again, it's important to keep in mind that you need to just go there with a keenness to learn, and you should be able to pick up what they do there, and be able to apply it. And it's really cool. It's not boring at all. It's not gonna make you feel like you're missing out um, on the stuff that you studied. Uh, yeah, I think that's what is there from a what we studied point of view.
I have a student that I'm supervising for his honors, and he
Yeah,
comes from a physics background, um, but he's also doing
yeah.
some courses and some selectives in data science and machine learning. So he sent me this textbook for me to view, which is a textbook that they use in machine learning and data science. When I was looking at the textbook
Mm,
and looking at the maths used there, I was actually very much,
mm,
impressed or even quite in awe because the machine learning stuff, they use a lot of linear algebra, a lot of multivariable calculus,
mm.
a lot of statistics,
Yes.
statistical methods, etc., etc. And
Mm.
now I was telling the students that I'm lecturing to say, hey, this is important now. This linear algebra can actually take you very far. so, so now,
Exactly.
so now, like you yourself being where you are now, looking back and talking to a student who's still in varsity, what can you say that these are the important aspects to actually take care of while you're still a student if you want to get into the quant space?
So when you say aspect, you mean like courses
Yeah,
that can
courses
help
that
you,
can actually help you. And
or
also, I mean, there might be other things as well. Perhaps, I don't know. I'm just
mm,
thinking here, maybe things like um, coding skills, things like that. So you'll
yeah,
just expand on um, whatever you feel like a student right now in 2023 need
yeah,
to take care
yeah.
of if they want to actually get into the quant space.
I think because the quant space is so wide and accepts a wide variety of careers, I'm not gonna speak to specifically the courses that you should study, just because those can vary and you can still wind up a quant. If you're specifically looking to be, a quant, I think it's more important to, and it's something that we tend to kind of overlook, especially when you're in varsity. In varsity, the currency is, being extremely smart and getting A's and the currency is the guy who's the cost chower
Yeah.
is the one. He's the one we praise and we put very highly. But I think even though that is really good. I've seen some guys who have done really well in their varsity life do very well in their work life. But I think it's important while you're doing that, right? I'm not taking away from the fact that you need to work hard. You need to, good old fashioned hard work never hurt anyone. I think it's still important to work hard, put in the hours, make sure that you are doing well in what you're doing. You're understanding the work that you're doing, because most of the work is a common thread. Like you were saying, the linear algebra ties to the machine learning. So whether if someone is going to tell you that a support vector classifier is very much based on linear algebra, if someone is going to tell you that, if you know the linear algebra, you'll be able to catch on relatively quickly. But also, if you know a support vector classifier, you'll know its underlying mathematics. And so it doesn't matter whether you're coming from maths or data science. If you have the keenness to learn it, you'll be able to learn. Important is for you to focus in school and do what you're supposed to do, but also try and sharpen skills that are a little bit more on the soft side. Try and be a little bit more organized. Try and learn how to manage your time well. Try and learn how to present. Try and learn how to communicate, how to talk to people in a concise way to learn the message. I don't think that those are easy skills to learn. I think you will be learning them well into your 50s. I'm not even anywhere close to being good at most of these. I struggle with being organized, struggle with managing my time, struggle with presentation, struggle with, you know, it's good effective communication. It's things that you have to constantly work on. But I think the farther you are in those skills, the better off you are. The more you are likely to land an interview and be able to nail it, and because you communicated well. There's nothing worse than being able to understand something in your mind, but not being able to convey it in a way that people can understand. So those are some of the skills, and like collaboration, being able to work with people. I know sometimes, especially in vets, though they try, it's not always easy to get people to work in groups enough for them to learn the value of collaboration. So those kind of things, collaborating with people and things like that, they're important skills that you. Yeah, yeah. So as I was saying, I think it's important for people to continue working hard on the hard skills. So you still need to be technically show that you are able to do the task at hand. Before anything else, you are there to complete the degree. But more than that, once you are out there, there's a different set of skills that is required. You need to be efficient at communication. You need to be effective in terms of being organized yourself, being able to manage your time, and be having good communication. I think those four will get you far. I mean, even if you just master one, it can make a real difference. But if you work simultaneously on all four, you will never. I think there are people who have really fully grasped it, but not a lot of people have all of these things together. But the more you work towards them, the better they make your life on an everyday basis. And the more they put you on the front foot, especially from a work perspective, if you think about it, um, you are going to be presenting to people, you are going to be talking to people who may or may not understand the work that you do. So you need to be able to communicate with both. You are going to be faced with multiple tasks that you have to do, and you have to do them all at the same time in some way. So time management and organizational skills are critical. You might be expected to lead a project, so some leadership exposure would also help. You might be expected to present. You need to learn how to do all of those things. And I think, it enriches you as a person and makes you a little bit more ready for the workplace if that's what you are. If that's what you manage to learn, I think it's really cool to invest in that.